Yeah.
Alright lads, quick video today. I've had a few messages from the last video about people asking for hints and tips when you're buying a Mark II Focus RS, kind of what things to look out for, what you need to be aware of. So that's what this is today. So we'll start with the basics. So the first thing you need is your budget. So how much do you want to spend? So you can get a Mark II in the UK anywhere between sort of 15, 16 grand for a low spec, high mild, bad condition. Anywhere up to 30 grand for a really low mileage, high spec, nice condition car. Or you can pay 50, 60 grand if you've got the money to buy an RS 500, which, you know, the average Joe like me can't afford a car of that sort of value, couldn't justify having a car worth 60 grand, although I would love one. But that's kind of what your price ranges are. So the next thing is your colour. Very basic, and it's pretty simple to choose when you're buying a Mark II Focus RS, because you only did them in 4 colours. So you've got your base colours, which are your frozen white, which is what mine is. You've got your ultimate green and your performance blue. All 3, to be fair, the car looks fantastic in all 3 colours. So, you know, whichever one you go for, it is personal choice. Whichever one you go for, you're going to get a nice looking car. If you go for the RS 500, which we've already mentioned, that comes in like a satin matte black. Absolutely gorgeous, but again, it's an expensive car. You need to know what spec you want as well. The spec options weren't massive because the car is pretty well equipped from as standard. You've got a few things, so you've got your Lux Pack 1 and your Lux Pack 2, and then you've got the seat upgrades. So the seat upgrades are the same as these, same seats, they're just black leather. Lovely seats. I just didn't particularly want the black leather, I prefer the material. So in this car you get the blue seats, in the blue car you get the blue seats, in the green car you get the green seats. In the RS 500 they're slightly different, so they are the leather, but I think they've got some different stitching. Correct us if I'm wrong, but I think it's got red stitching on the seats. Your Lux Pack 1 and 2 comfort features. Basically your Lux Pack 1, you're getting a few different bits and bobs, like your climate control, you get a nice stereo. In your Lux Pack 2 you get your reverse camera, you get your sat nav. It's not a deal breaker. Personally, I wanted the Lux 1 and 2, but it wouldn't have been a deal breaker if I found the right car and it didn't have that spec. I wasn't too bothered. So just have a think about what's actually important to you when you're buying the car. And to be fair, in the Lux 2, the sat nav head unit is pretty ugly. I've got another video of us removing the sat nav unit, just for some repairs. I wasn't replacing it, but have a look at it. It's not the best looking of units, but it's quite hard to change because that unit itself has also got your climate control and everything built in. Your dual zone climate control is built into that, so it's a bit fiddly if you do want to change it. Once you've picked your colour and your spec, you need to start thinking about the basics of what you want. So your mileage. I wanted a low-ish miles car. I wasn't going to go out and buy one that had 10,000 mile on because the prices are just ridiculous. But I didn't want one that had 70, 80,000 mile on. So just think about what you're comfortable with your mileage. So it is a pretty basic thing when you're buying any car, and it's the same with these. So have a think about where you want to be at with your mileage. It kind of brings us on to the next point, which is your service history. So I had to have a car that had a full service history. That was one of the stipulations. The service history had to be complete. So with the mileage, make sure that it hasn't only got low miles, but it's also being properly maintained. I wouldn't necessarily say it has to be a main dealer service history. Obviously that's always a bonus, especially when you go to sell the car that's got a dealer history. It always bodes better when you go to sell it. But as long as it has got a service history from reputable garages, then, you know, I think you're in a good space. So something that I would say on this car that I wouldn't normally say, so normally when I buy a car, number of owners is quite important. When I was looking for a Mark II, I noticed that a lot of them had high owners, sort of 5+, which on a 10-year-old car, 5+ owners, it's quite a lot on a normal car. So I went to the RS owners forum and I was asking people what sort of owners, and I was finding that people were buying cars that had 30,000-40,000 miles on, that had 7, 8, 9 owners. High owners is not actually an unusual thing on a car like this. Reason being is people buy them because they want to have the experience, but then they realise that living with it day to day and paying the expense of running it isn't what they want, or they'll buy it as a garage queen, stick it away in the garage and think, you know, I've got 25 grand just sitting in the garage, let's get rid. So don't actually let number of owners put you off too much. I mean, again, it is going to impact when you go to sell the car, the amount of owners it's had. The less owners, the better price you're going to get. But don't let it put you off, and don't let it make you think that it's a bad car, because it doesn't mean that it's a bad car. Look at the condition, look at the service history, look at the mileage. Owners is not a big deal. You do see people with these cars. So my friend has got a friend who's got one of these that literally goes to the MOT station every year, and that's it. Now, personally, I think it's sad for the car because it's just sitting in the garage all the time. But look at your condition, look at your service history, look at how the car's being maintained. Don't let the owners put you off, which is something that I was really shocked by when I was looking, was the amount of owners that the cars have had. So just take that into consideration when you're looking, and don't let that be the deciding factor, because you might pass on the perfect car because of that, and it's not really a reason to do so. Something to definitely look out for on a car like this, not just this car, but these type of cars in general, is look at the tyres. So I'm not talking about the condition of the tyres. If the tyres are bally, don't worry about it. What I mean is, look at what tyres have actually been fitted. What I've found when I'm buying any cars is, if the car's got cheap tyres on, if it's got eBay tyres, if it's got Chinese imported tyres, whatever, if it's got non-branded tyres, it means that the owner was a cheapskate, basically. And what you'll find is a lot of the other repairs and mods have been done on the cheap. So you're going to want to take note of what tyres is actually on the car. You're going to be looking for your Pirelli P0s, your Michelin Pilot Sports, Uniroyal Rain Sports, things like that. You want a branded tyre. It actually says a lot about the owner of the car, and it says a lot about how the car's being looked after. If they've put cheap tyres on, like I say, there's chances that they've cut corners elsewhere as well. So take that into account, not just on cars, on this car, on cars in general. Something that you definitely want to look out for on a Mark II Focus RS are the rear arches. So the rear arches are one of the biggest downfalls of these cars in the design. So what happens is, the rear bumper rubs on the arches, so where the arches meet the bumper, it's a prime spot for the paint to start cracking and rusting. So definitely check that area. I mean, you want to obviously check the whole car for condition and rust, stone chips, things like that. But one of the big problems with these cars is definitely, there's the petrol light binging again. Honestly, the petrol light is constantly on in this car. Something to take into account is the running cost, but that's in a previous video. So look for the rear arches. It is a massively common problem on this. If you go on any of the forums or any of the owners groups, which I'm on most of them, one of the biggest things people complain about are the rear arches, and that's where it starts. It's at the back where the bumper rubs on the quarter panel. So definitely check that. So one of mine, that's one of the little bits of paint I need doing. So mine isn't too bad, but it's starting, so I'm going to get on top of it and get it done before it becomes a real problem. But overall condition, you want to look for your stone chips, you want to look for your scratches, your dents. They're going to have stone chips. It's a 10-year-old car. Expect a few stone chips, expect a few little marks here and there. Unless you're buying right at the top end of the market, then you want something that's perfect. But if you're kind of in the middle of the market, or especially the bottom end of the market, you are not going to get it perfect. Every single one of them that I looked at had little marks on it. It had little scratches, little chips, little marks here and there. But it's expected of a car of this age, not just on a Focus, on any car of this age. You're not going to get a perfect car unless you are buying right at the top of the market. Low miles, low owners, perfect condition. So just expect that, but definitely look for those telltale signs that the Archers are going to cause you problems and costs in the future. Look for accident damage as well. So there was one that stood out for me. God, this is a bumpy road. There was one that stood out for me that I looked at, which wasn't on the accident list, so it hadn't been recorded as being in an accident, but it definitely had been in an accident. So because of the impact a crash damage has on a car's resale, people will tend to fix these without going through the insurance. So if they've had a ding on the front end or the rear, or someone's got into the side of them, a lot of owners will prefer to just get the car fixed and pay for it themselves, because it's going to affect the resale value of the car. So have a good look round. If you don't know too much about cars, definitely get someone to go with you who does, and also make sure it sounds like this. The sound of this car is definitely the best thing, so yeah, make sure it sounds nice. The last thing that I would say to look out for is mods. I'll be honest, if you wanted a bog standard car with no modifications on, you are definitely looking at the higher end of the market. You're definitely going to be looking at one of the low mileage perfect showroom examples. There are not very many left that haven't had anything at all done to them, and when I say anything at all, I'm talking air filters, inlet plenums, wheels, brakes, exhausts. Majority of them have been tinkered with. If you're happy with that, that's great, because chances are if you're buying one, you're probably going to modify it yourself. So when you're looking at the mods, see what mods it's got on. Kind of like the tyres, you know, if it's got a nice K&N or a Pipercross induction kit, or a Venom induction kit, anything that's kind of high end, it's a good sign. If they've got one that they've bought from Save and Drive or they've bought from eBay, it's like a 15 quid universal air filter, it's not really a very good sign, because again, they're going to have cheaped out elsewhere on the car. Make sure that the mods that are on the car are things that you're happy with and things that you're comfortable with, because standard parts can be quite expensive and quite hard to come by. So if you're wanting to put the car back to standard, if you think I'll buy it modified and I'll put it back to standard, you're generally going to have to go to Ford for the parts, because second-hand parts for these cars do not come around very often, and they do not come very cheap. So just make sure that the mods that are on the car have been installed correctly, they're not cheap mods, and that you're happy with them, because putting them back to standard may be expensive and harder than you would think. If you buy a car that's modified normally, you can go and buy second-hand parts to put it back to stock pretty easy. With this, anything you're going to buy, you're going to pay a fortune and you're going to struggle to find. And the final thing that I want to cover is the basis of buying any car, regardless what car you're buying. Make sure you test drive it, make sure you look at it in the daylight. Do never ever buy a car in the dark. But crucially important is to make sure that you test drive it, make sure that it drives properly. I drove one that was absolutely gorgeous. It was one of the best looking ones I've seen, and it drove like a bag of hammers. So make sure you take it for that test drive, and when you're test driving it, don't be scared to get it up to boost. Obviously get it up to temperature, make sure that it drives nice at low speeds, but make sure that you give it some, make sure that you plant your foot, because a lot of the problems you'll not feel until you get into the boost or until you get up to speed. You're getting steering wheel wobble, you're getting turbo, you're getting funny noises from the turbo or the engine. So make sure on that test drive you drive it like it's your car, give it some bings, otherwise you're not going to know how the car performs. And also, if someone's claiming that it's got 450 brake horsepower, ask them if they've got proof, ask them if they've got any dyno printouts, and when you drive it, try and drive a standard one first. Even if you can't afford to buy it or it's not the car you want, try and drive one that is actually standard, and then when you're driving a modified one, you're going to feel the difference. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for today. I really hope you found this video useful. When I was going to buy the car, I couldn't really find any videos like this online, and maybe I just wasn't looking hard enough, but I really struggled to find videos like this. So I do hope that a few people have found this video useful. If you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like videos like this, then please subscribe to the channel. There will be a lot of videos coming up over the coming months, so any subscribers does really help us out, and I really do appreciate it. If you do have any questions or there's anything I've missed and you want to check, please leave a comment. I do try to reply to all the comments, and I hope I can help you further. So like I say, anything you want to know, just drop a comment down below and I will get back to you. Thank you very much for watching.
Yeah.